Let's talk pumpkins. This pumpkin is not a foam one, a carvable one. It's a hard plastic one. And it had this stem on it, which, you know, I could decorate it up, but I thought it was not too bad the way it was. How did I do this? Well, I had this rice paper that I ordered. It's called Twilight Field. It's by Prima. And you can see here that it has a specific design. That's the first thing you have to consider when you're going to decoupage something that's curved like this. So what I ended up having to do was I laid my paper and kind of measured the ribs here, and I cut this rib section kind of like a big long leaf. Okay, and then I laid it down to see if it fit, and I cut it just a little bit wider, and I basically decoupaged one rib section at a time, then would lay the next one down and the next one down, but I tried to keep them in order so that it looked like the pattern continued. Is it perfect? Well, no, because you're overlapping and cutting. Also, it's wrinkly because it's a curved surface. But honestly, I don't mind that look. I think it makes it look old. Now, after this one completely dried, I ended up going back with some antiquing wax and just brushed that over and kind of rubbed off so that it was a little darker. You can see this was the color of the paper to begin with. But I liked putting the wax on it because it also helped kind of hide where the seam edges might have been. You really can't tell because of the wrinkles and things in it. I don't think you can really tell. And it turned out really cute, I think. So that's one way to decoupage, using decoupage paper, rice paper. A lot of decoupage papers are tissue type paper. But now I want to show you how to decoupage using cocktail napkins. Move this out of the way. If you have something, a napkin, that is just kind of an all-over pattern, it's going to be far easier for you to decoupage using that kind of a design. I'm going to start with the hard one. These are some Thanksgiving napkins that I ordered. Now, some things to notice, very important to notice, how many plies it has. They're nearly always 3 ply. So, let me take one out. I just loved that. I thought it was so cute. If we undo it, you'll see that in each of the 4 corners, it's the same, but we do have a nice strip here that we can use as a whole piece. So it's 3 ply. What does that mean? It means there are 3 sheets there. And in order to decoupage, you're going to have to get it down to just the top sheet. This one usually comes off pretty easily. The next one, not so easy. You can start at a corner. Sometimes if you wet your fingers a little bit, that can help. Oh, seriously, this is the most tedious part of the whole process. Just want to be a little bit gentle, pull them apart, but they rarely tear. Okay. And you need, for my napkin, I need 2 of those. Luckily, I've already done extras. Now, this is a styrofoam pumpkin from the Dollar Tree. I have not tried to decoupage on top of styrofoam before, so I'm not positive how well this is going to work. But it was an orange pumpkin, as you can see there from the bottom. Haven't painted it that much. I put 2 coats of Heritage Traditions white cashmere paint. Now, their particular type of chalk paint has a sealer in it. So if it didn't, I would want to go ahead and brush on some kind of water-based sealer. But I think maybe we'll be okay. Now, I have several different decoupage mediums. You can actually use a water-based sealer. The liquid patina that I've shown in some of my other projects is certainly a decoupage medium, but I don't want to waste my sealer or the liquid patina because they're expensive compared to cheap old Mod Podge. And I'm using matte Mod Podge. So, and you can get Mod Podge in the little tiny bottles at the Dollar Tree for $1. So it can be a cheap thing. You can find decorative fall napkins at the Dollar Tree and other places as well. Now, looking at my napkin here, this is a 5-inch napkin, and I see that little seam right there in the pumpkin. Basically, this napkin goes from seam to seam. So that kind of works. And then up and down, I mean, I want most of this to show the wheels and all that, and we can have to fix the bottom later. So I'm going to be placing it right about there. And here's my center. I'm going to trim off some of this excess here, so it'll be easier for me to work with it. I'm going to start by placing my Mod Podge from this seam here over to this seam, just about, what is that, about 1.5 inches, 2 inches. And I'm going to lift up and I'm going to purposefully create creases here until my picture comes straight all the way to this edge. Careful, see, I tore my paper right there. Tissue paper is very fragile. Which is another reason why you don't want to put your Mod Podge over the entire pumpkin or half of your pumpkin before you kind of have it started and in place. Okay. So now I'm going to carefully lift back to where I stopped with my Mod Podge. It's hard to hold on to. Now, when you're going to apply your next Mod Podge, don't come up here right next to the seam because you'll get a lip. So start it in the middle and then you can come up next to that edge. because you don't want to clump it. And again, I'm just going down another couple of inches. Not going the whole way yet. See, the thing is with decoupage, especially using tissue paper, if you put a lot of friction on it, it can tear. So let me grab something really quickly. Just some cling wrap and wad it up and gently. See, that's starting to tear. You have to be super careful. But again, I don't mind the wrinkles. Okay. Let's get the rest of this down. I really don't want to fold my napkin back, so I'm kind of pushing my brush up in there. Plus, we're going to be going over the top of the paper with the Mod Podge also. Now down here, you're going to have additional wrinkling because the pumpkin's getting smaller. See, tore just a tiny bit there. You have to be super careful. But I think that's looking really cute. All right, hang on a minute. This Mod Podge is water soluble. So I'm just taking a damp sponge right here and getting off this excess Mod Podge so it doesn't stick to my surface. Okay, now you have a couple choices to make here. Normally, if you keep a straight line, that's going to be much more noticeable than if you tear it carefully with your hands. So here is my second sheet. I'm going to trim off the excess that I don't need. I'll save that excess because we'll be using that on the bottom. So on this side and the other side, I'm going to wet my hands just a tiny bit. I don't want to tear off too much because I need it to go the whole way, and it's a tight fit there. I'm just tearing a teeny tiny bit off the edge just so that I don't have a perfectly straight edge. I could have done that with these too, but I'm hoping this is going to overlap and I didn't need to tear that one. Same thing again on this side. Now you'll notice I'm overlapping a little bit onto the other paper because I expect that it will be crossing over it. Start in the middle and lift up. Look how that's working out, guys. It's pretty much close to right on the mark. On that side anyway. I can force it there. Okay, I got a tear. There it is. But we'll just patch that in here in a little bit, any place we have tears. So this time, carefully push this up a little bit. Come down a couple more inches. Some of you guys may think, oh gosh, this is way too tedious. Well, it is a little tedious, but to me, it's therapeutic. I mean, right now, it's raining outside. It's a Saturday. There's nothing I can be doing outside. Oops. I got a wrinkle in here, but I'm afraid to tear if I pull it out. So, just press it down. Ideally, you should let one side dry before you start doing the other. Again, you're going to have to create your wrinkles. I try to do them as much inside the rib as I can. Sometimes it just doesn't work out that way. Oh, another thing, when you paint your pumpkin, it's better to paint it white or a light color, because that way your tissue is going to look the best. It's going to stand out the most that way. Okay, I've got some down here that I lost. Appears to be this little section right in here. It's bigger, so this time I am going to tear it. Okay, I'm going to stop touching and I'm going to stop fixing, because right now I'm just pulling up paper. So we're going to let this dry and we'll come back to the repairs and to the finish up. See, I'm pulling paper. Leave it alone. Let it dry. So while that's drying, let's do something a little fun that we'll end up adding to our pumpkin. This is the sunflower leaf mold from IOD, and I am adding cornstarch because it just helps the clay release easier and not stick to the mold. So that's what I'm doing there. And I just pounced a little bit of it out. It's kind of hard to work from the side, guys. My camera's center and I'm way over here trying to work. So this is the IOD clay, air dry clay, which I love. May not have enough. It's a pretty big size mold. Keep it in a Ziploc bag. Don't want it to dry out. Like that's a dry piece. Anyway, I'm going to knead it a little bit. Kind of warm it up in my hands a little bit. And And then I'm just going to start flattening it out. It's kind of like playing with Play-Doh. I'm probably going to need more clay. Start pressing it in the mold. I'll take my thumb and push at the edges. And to take it out of the mold, you want to let gravity do the work. So I flip it over. And voila. Isn't that gorgeous? For completing the rest of the pumpkin, I did exactly what I did that I've already shown you. I kind of matched up the tissue paper and worked in small sections, glued them on with Mod Podge, and then went over the entire pumpkin very carefully with another layer of Mod Podge and let that dry. Let's have a little fun with this sunflower. Now, it's going to take this overnight to dry, but it's already starting to get a little bit of a skim over it, and I'm going to need to apply this to my pumpkin while it's not dry so that it will flex and bend. But I can go ahead and add some paint to it. This paint's not completely dry, but I don't care. Some of it's going to come off. I don't care. This is not done. Not near done. Okay. Stick from the yard. Decide which end you like. I don't know. I guess like that. I'm going to push to create a little hole here in my clay. Okay. So carefully flipping it over. Get some of this paint off that's on the back of it. Tight bond, quick and thick. All right, now we let this puppy dry completely overnight. To finish up the pumpkin, I glazed it with Waverly antiquing wax, brushed it on, and then kind of rubbed it back all over on the sunflower as well as on the pumpkin. And for some final touches here, I grabbed some of my bronze gilding wax, and I'm just touching it to the stem in a few little places on the petals. And that's really it. The pumpkin is finito.